After being released on Netflix in 2021, Hwang Dong-hyuk's creation Squid Game became an international sensation. It chronicles the lives of destitute people drawn into a deadly and enigmatic competition. The show became one of Netflix's greatest stories after receiving a lot of praise from critics for its performance, character development, and storytelling. Despite not receiving as much praise as the groundbreaking original, Season 2 will debut on December 26 and has already become one of the most talked-about shows of the year. The show Squid Game explores the darker aspects of human nature. Putting people in dire circumstances where they must choose between life and death is a surefire way to bring out the worst in people. Here we list the most heinous characters, from the people who run the games to the most cunning and vicious competitors. The argument for Han Minayo's inclusion on the list is not as straightforward as others, but in the end, her self-serving and opportunistic behavior makes her a difficult character to support. Even if it's entertaining to see, her unpredictable fluctuations between being a desperate and vulnerable lady and being dishonest and self-centered combine to create a dangerous situation. She is obviously a woman who has experienced adversity, and she takes advantage of this by manipulating her emotions and using her sexuality to achieve her goals. Her frequent oscillations between extremes make her one of the more amusing characters, but they also give off an unnerving and unreliable vibe. Sia Nayo is a spiritual shaman with a haunting and spooky personality. Even so, contestants dismiss her at first as being a little strange, but it quickly becomes clear that her creepiness is the least of their concerns. Because of her previous status as a well-known shaman, Sia Nayo has a large ego and is a rather conceited woman. She furthers her capacity to dominate and deceive others around her by using this position to trick others into thinking she has magical abilities. In situations where she can't control someone, she acts uncivilized and hostile, even cursing and wishing them dead. Another character who exhibits moral bankruptcy in his gameplay is Im Jeng-dae. He is adamant about winning the money by whatever means necessary and is always urging others to vote in order to continue playing. Im Jong-dae feels that no amount of prize money is ever sufficient and is adamant that he needs more. He always prioritized himself over others and had little respect for human life during the actual games. Outside of the games, he is blustery and vicious, and he has no qualms about killing anyone who gets in his way. Cho Sang-woo came across as a friendly persona when she was first introduced as Ji-hun's close childhood friend. He made friends with other players and was regarded as a reliable partner. It wasn't long before Cho Sang-woo's true colors came to light. As the intensity increased, he quickly betrayed friends within the game to further himself. The most shocking betrayal is when he tricks his friend, fan favorite Ollie, to hand over his marbles, resulting in him losing the game and ultimately his life. From the get-go, former club promoter Namgyu is exceedingly unlikable. Dependent on narcotics and a sycophant to Thanos, he is described as an all-round terrible man. He taunts and intimidates contestants and is prone to resort to violence. Despite never being a likable character, after the death of Thanos, Namgyu becomes even more unhinged. His more aggressive and violent side surges to the surface and there is no reasoning with him. Captain Park is a figure introduced later on in the series as he reportedly saves the life of Jun-ho. Posing as a humble fisherman and sea captain, he is supposed to be uninvolved in the game and is hired by Jun-ho's team to aid them in their search for the Squid Game Island. A team member witnesses Park tampering with the drone one night on the boat, perhaps adding a tracking device. In order to avoid being exposed, Park quickly kills the man and tosses him over the boat after his evil intentions are revealed. According to the revelation, Park is working with the frontman of Squid Game and saved Jun-ho just to watch over him. He probably told the frontman about the team's progress, which prevented them from finding the island and even alerted the enforcers who set a booby trap that killed one of the team members. When it came to Season 1, Jang Deok-soo was by far the most cruel and unlikable competitor. A gangster who has no respect for human life, he uses manipulation and bullying to get through the games, leaving a trail of suffering and death in his wake. Jang Deok-soo exhibits no restraint in using violent and aggressive tactics during his violent tenure in Squid Game, and his behavior only gets worse. His complete lack of regret makes him even more morally repugnant. As Season 2 introduces us to the new competitors, the front man, who goes by Oh Young Il and immediately makes a name for himself as one of the game's more devoted, amiable, and sympathetic competitors, joins forces with Ji-hun and demonstrates his abilities as a competitor with a credible backstory that explains how he got into the game. Actually, until Young-bae sees him murder a man in cold blood during a particularly tense moment in a game. Hwang In-ho, the front man, the main player in the operation of the entire games, and the man in charge of the death and suffering that accompany them, gives his fellow competitors very little reason to doubt him. Although this caused some anxiety in Young-bae, he dismissed it as a game requirement and kept his faith in him. But in the final moments, he turns on his competitors and shoots them in the back as they try to flee and save Ji-hun. A small group of affluent elites who watch the games from a distance for their own entertainment make up the VIPs, who were first introduced in Season 1. In addition, they treat the competitors like commodities by placing wagers on the game's lethal outcomes for amusement and financial gain. The VIPs play a crucial role in the operation of the Squid Game and are a major factor in its existence. These vile people, who represent the height of avarice, corruption, and moral decline, are perhaps equally as responsible for Squid Game's inhumanity as the game's creator. The title for the most despicable character has to go to the Oh Il-nam, the mastermind behind the entire twisted Squid Game. He is responsible for the suffering and deaths of thousands purely for his own amusement, demonstrating a chilling lack of empathy and humanity. His justification about his desire to test human nature does little to redeem the man from the utter misery and devastation he has caused. Initially presented as an elderly and vulnerable contestant in the games, one meant to evoke sympathy from audiences, the revelation of his true character only makes him more despicable.